Hello my friends, Chat English, and today we have a book club video. This is actually the first book club video on my channel, and we recorded the video with my friend, with Eugene, and it was 1 hour long, but I forgot to click the record button, and unfortunately it went nowhere. And now I'm doing the same stuff. I'm going to discuss the first part of this story, and maybe later we'll continue. We'll talk, we'll read the second part with Eugene again. So let's start, and we're reading Anton Chekhov's story, the famous Russian writer, one of the best Russian writers, so giant of Russian literature, along with Pushkin and Dostoevsky and Bulgakov and so on and so forth. I'm not an expert in literature, and I never liked literature, and if I'm saying something stupid, please forgive me, because, well, I'm pretty bad at interpreting stories, and especially long poems. It's hard. And the only thing I can understand and see and realize, and just the most obvious actions, what's going on, what's happening. Like he said this, he did this, so that's what I see. But there are always some, a hidden meaning that you should grasp from the subtle signs or gestures, or implies something. So it's hard, and you have to read a lot to understand what they mean. You should know the history. You should know why it was written, when it was written, to whom it was written, and you should know their biographies and all of that. So you should be a fan of literature to go deeper, and you should read some of the works that different critics write about, poems and stories. You should be into that to understand, or maybe some people just understand it naturally, but I'm not one of them. Let's see what we got here, and I'll try to explain as good as possible. I'll try to explain it to you as good as possible. So let's get started. The Death of a Government Clerk by Anton Chekhov. And Anton Chekhov is famous for his short satiric stories that explain the situation at the time in Russia. Usually a lampoon, or he laughs at some of the society problems and issues that take place in Russian society, and he shows it in a very exaggerated way, so we can get the idea, so we can understand and avoid it in our lives. All right, so this story is about a small man, a little man. It's not about his height, but it's about his personality and how he perceives himself, how he considers himself, how he places himself in this society. So what's his place in the hierarchy, and how he feels about that. And it's a very common topic of Chekhov's stories and other writers' stories. A story of a little man, how he lives, how he feels. Because I think that society, it's not only entrepreneurs and kings and queens and leaders and politicians and all that. It's ordinary people, and they create the foundation of the society, and he focuses a lot on those ordinary people. So we should understand better what they feel and how they live their lives. And again, this is a story about a little man. In this case, his name is Ivan Dmitrievich Chervikov. And look at his surname, and it has a perfect meaning in this story. It has a perfect sense. As we read along, you'll see that this is exactly how he feels, like a chervyak in Russian. It's a worm in Russian, worm. So this animal it doesn't have too much respect. It can be easily get killed or ran over by a car, and nobody cares about this animal. So it works a lot, and it's not too much respected, among the other animals and among people. So worm, and and for some people it's disgusting animal that crawling and that looks disgusting and looks dirty, you know, who likes to dig into some dirt, some fecus, I don't know, in puddles, so enjoys those dirty things. And we don't like too much like worms. And this is his surname. This is his surname, Chervakov, Ivan Dmitrich Chervakov. Let's go. In this story, Chekhov takes aim at the overly hierarchical order of Russian society, where lowly workers and clerks often endure humiliating and ingratiating discomforts to avoid displeasing superiors. This story is also known as the death of a civil servant, the death of a government clerk. According to the title, we already know how it ends and what happens in the end of this, at the end of the story. And this is kind of a spoil, and I had a question why he did this, why he named this story, so we can understand what is going to happen, because usually it keeps you reading, it keeps you on your toes when you don't know how it ends, when you don't know what happens with the characters. But in this case, it's quite the opposite. You know what happens, you know the end of the story right away, right from the title. And I don't know why he did this. Probably he had some reason for that. The death of a civil servant. I don't know who he is in this picture. Sergei Ilyushin, says the label. Soviet aircraft designer, 1910. I don't understand who he is and what's he doing here, because it has his name, and this man has nothing to do with the story. I don't know, maybe it was a mistake, or maybe he was somehow related to the story. Because the history, how he created the story, there was some versions, 3 versions. One said that it really happened in real life, and he just skillfully described it and wrote it down and posted this story. And two other versions said that it was partially true. So there was one man who made this joke with someone, and he just get this idea and added some details. Chekhov added some details, and then he created this story. So maybe it was the man who was the reason why the story was created, the premise, the man in real life, when Anton Chekhov learned about this situation. Maybe. I have no idea. One fine evening, a no less fine government clerk called Ivan Dmitrich Chervakov was sitting in the second row of the stalls. Stalls are the area in the theater, and the second row, so it's just in front of the stage. So it has a very nice view. You can see it very closely and very well. Gazing through an opera glass and the Cloches de Corneville, at the Cloches de Corneville, I guess this is the name of the opera. Gazing through an opera glass, he gazed and felt at the acme of bliss, the top, the strongest feeling of bliss, of happiness. But suddenly, in stories one so often meets with this but suddenly. Yeah, you know, everything was good, everything was nice, and then suddenly something bad happened. But suddenly in stories one so often meets with this but suddenly. The authors are right. Life is so full of surprises. You never know what's waiting for you around the corner. But suddenly his face puckered up. No, wrinkles start appearing on his face. So he puckered up. His eyes disappeared. His breathing was arrested. He stopped breathing. He took the opera glass from his eyes, bent over, and apchee! He sneezed, as you perceive. It is not reprehensible for anyone to sneeze anywhere. So it's not reprehensible, it's not shameful. There's no shame in sneezing. So there's nothing to worry about, right? Peasants sneeze, and so do police, superintendents, and sometimes even privy councillors. Peasants are farmers, farm workers, sneeze, and so the police superintendents, and even queens and kings and presidents and policemen and policewomen. So all the people sneeze. It's natural. There's nothing wrong, nothing bad about it. It's not reprehensible for anyone. Peasants sneeze, and so do police superintendents, and sometimes even privy councillors. Privy, it's like private councillors, a member of the council. All men sneeze, and all women sneeze. Chervakov was not in the least confused. So he wasn't confused. Everything was good. He wiped his face with his handkerchief and, like a polite man, looked around to see whether he had disturbed anyone by his sneezing. And that's where the problems started. But then he was overcome with confusion. He saw that an old gentleman sitting in front of him in the first row on the stalls was carefully wiping his bald head and his neck with his glove and muttering something to himself. Muttering something, so talking, saying something to himself. In the old gentleman, Chervakov recognized Brizhalov, a civilian general serving in the Department of Transport. So we have our protagonist. We have the conflict and the protagonist. So two characters. One is Chervakov, the other one is Brizhalov, and we have a conflict brewing. I have spattered him, thought Chervakov. So I have spattered means I put my saliva on him. So some drops of my saliva fly over him and landed on his head. He's not the head of my department, but still it is awkward. I must apologize. So he's not the head of my department, so probably it means he's not my superior. Superior is someone you respond to. It's your boss, basically, or boss of your boss. So it's not his superior, it's not his boss, but anyway, it was a person with a higher rank, a person who was higher in this hierarchy. That meant something had to be done about it, because it could lead to some problems. But still, it's awkward. I must apologize. Chervakov gave a cough, bent his whole person forward, and whispered in the general's ear. So look at this nice details, because everything that Chekhov does, every word, every sentence, every little detail, it makes perfect sense, and it creates this image, and it creates this puzzle of his feelings and emotions. Take care of, try to notice all those little details that create the image of him. Bend his whole person. He didn't just bend a little bit, or with his hand, or with his head. He bent his whole person. That's interesting. And whispered in the general's ear, "Pardon, Your Excellency. I spattered you accidentally." Never mind. For goodness sake, excuse me. I did not mean to. Oh, please sit down. Let me listen. So what do we see here? We see that the general has already forgotten about this. It's not a big deal. It's a trifle for him. Trifle is a thing of little importance. He doesn't care. But that's interesting. For me, it's interesting. Because, well, when somebody spattered on you, somebody spattered on you with saliva, so sneezed on you and didn't even bother to close his mouth, well, I think that many people would go angry. Many people would get angry about it and start shouting, yelling, even fighting back. But in this case, this general, this old gentleman is quite quiet and doesn't care too much, and he does nothing about it. Doesn't even turn back to see what happened. That's interesting. And I had some versions why he's acting like this. Maybe he was so consumed in the opera show, he was interested in what's going on the stage, and he doesn't care. So because remember, Chervakov was the acme of bliss, So probably was the most intense scene, the most intense event of the opera, and everyone was focused on the stage. And probably at this moment, gentlemen, of course, obviously didn't care. But again, it's weird. Or maybe those drops were like too little. It wasn't that much to be noticed. Maybe some little drops landed on his head, So anyway, whatever reason, he didn't care, and he already forgot about this. Pardon, never mind. For goodness sake, excuse me, I did not mean to. Oh, please sit down, let me listen. So you see, Brizhalov is okay. He's okay. Chekhov was embarrassed. He smiled stupidly and fell to gazing at the stage. He gazed at it, but was no longer feeling bliss. He began to be troubled by uneasiness. In the interval, he went up to Brizhalov, walked beside him, and overcoming his shyness, muttered, I spattered you, your excellency. Forgive me. You see, I didn't do it too. Oh, that's enough. I'd forgotten it, and you keep on about it, said the general, moving his lower lip impatiently. So see, this conflict is mounting, is growing up. And Chekhov cannot accept this fact that general doesn't care. He thinks, well, there is a catch. There is something wrong. Maybe he's quiet now, but later he will come to his office and will fire him, or I don't know, would sue him or something. Because people with high rank, they have power, they have some strings to pull, and everything bad can happen to you. So he was afraid. So I think the basic emotion here is fear. Yeah, I think it's fear. Because the general, he can easily, beat you up, or not him exactly, or his people. You can go to jail easily. You can lose your job. You can have a lot of troubles. And thinking about that, or having this precedence in the past, seeing it from someone else, maybe he's afraid. He's afraid of the consequences, and he wants to apologize. He wants to cover his act. I spattered your excellency. Oh, that's enough. He has forgotten, but there is a Now he's thinking. Chekhov is thinking. He has forgotten, but there is a fiendish light in his eye. Fiendish means devilish. He has something in his mind. He has not forgotten. I think he is dangerous. I think I must apologize. I must convince him that I did nothing wrong. I didn't do it. I did it accidentally. I didn't intend to spit on him. Thought Chekhov, looking suspiciously at the general, and he doesn't want to talk. I ought to explain to him that I really didn't intend, that it is the law of nature, or else he will think I meant to spit on him. He doesn't think so now, but he will think so later. You see, those fears and suspicions and hesitations and those bad expectations. So all flooding his mind right now. On getting home, Chekhov told his wife of his breach of good manners. By the way, why did it happen? Why this happened in the first place? That's what I was wondering the first attempt when we were recording this video. Because he was a polite man, obviously, and he put his hand over his mouth. So why this happened? Why he spattered somebody? Again, I suggested two reasons. One of them was he just didn't manage to put his hand. He didn't have time, so he was late. So when he approached his hand to his mouth, he already sneezed, so he didn't make it. He didn't make it in time. This is my first explanation. Another assumption, another explanation is that anyway it happens when you when you sneeze hard, even if you put something or if you put it too loosely. You know, there was some places between your fingers, some holes, and somebody flies, somebody goes through his hand. Oh, like the, I don't know how it's possible, but I don't believe that he didn't put his hand at all, or he didn't put his handkerchief. More than that, we read that he took out his handkerchief. So why this happened? Still a mystery to me. I think it was an accident. It was an accident. He didn't intend. He did the right thing. Now getting home, he told his wife. Now it's interesting how his wife reacts. If he has the same line of thought, if he has the same understanding of the situations, or she can advise him something good, something reasonable. It struck him that his wife. So first, it struck him that his wife took too frivolous a view of the incident. She was a little frightened, but when she learned that Brizhalov was in a different department, she was reassured. So why is it so dangerous? Why is it so bad and so goofy if he's from a different department? That's interesting. Probably someone could explain it to me. All right, different department. So what? I don't know. So maybe if it's somebody from your department, because when it's somebody from a different department, you as a member of your department, you represent your department. Let's imagine if it was his own like superior, he's from his own department. So now you embarrass yourself in front of your people, and you embarrass only yourself. You put yourself in troubles, but not others. But in this case, if he was in a different department, that means you embarrass your whole department. So this man, this general, can complain to your boss, to your superior, to your general, can complain, and then all the department has problems. All department has problems, and all department is embarrassed in front of other departments. And you know, news travel quickly, and rumors travel quickly, and then everyone knows about it. I don't know. This is just my speculation. She was reassured, but this is how. Maybe it's not it's really possible. It's not feasible. It's just how they think. It's just what's happening in their mind, in minds of ordinary people. Still, you had better. So first, she was frivolous. It means he took this easily and didn't think about it too seriously. But then she said she was reassured. Still, you had better go and apologize, even though he did apologize several times, and it took no action. And then again, she advises he goes and apologize. Advises he go and apologize again. That's weird. That's weird. Where is the logic? But still, their fear clouded their minds, clouded their reasoning. He said, "Oh, he will think you don't know how to behave in public. Or he will think you don't know how to behave in public." Well, again, and now we can separate two situations. When you fear something, when you're afraid of something, because it can really leads to some problem in the future. It has real consequences. And the other situation, when it's all your imagination. You just don't want that people say bad things about you, or somebody feels bad about you, or speaks ill about you, or somebody speaks behind your back. So we don't want this. Okay, and the first case, I think it's quite understandable, because nobody wants problems with their money, a job, a family. Of course, nobody wants it. But in the second case, I think you can relax, because some people will always be angry with you, always be unhappy with you, will always complain about you, even if you do good things, even if you try hard to do the best thing you can, even if you do your best. Yeah, if you try hard to do your best, well, there will be someone who will complain anyway. So it's impossible. Of course, we try to be good people, try to do our job in the best way possible, but it's impossible to satisfy everyone in the world. No, and there is a saying, I'm not a $100 bill, so I can't satisfy everyone. Because if you're too good, or some people say you're boring, there's no there's no action, no action, there is no fun. You're not fun. You know, you must be boring in the parties. They might say something like this. Or if you're a bad guy, a girl, if you like dirty jokes, you like pranks and all of it, you're loud, then some people like you and other people don't like you, because they're used to more quiet lifestyle. Well, you see, you can't satisfy everyone, but you should stop doing it. You should drop it. Now, didn't say a word of sense. That's just it. I did apologize, but he took it somehow queerly. Queerly means in a strange and perplexing way. Probably he had something in mind. Probably he had some plans about me. Already started thinking, okay, we can judge those people, we can judge this man Chekhov, because I think there was a real problem. And if our writers like Anton Chekhov, if they write about something, there's probably a problem, a real problem, and they want to change it somehow, and they want to show people how ridiculous it is. And this is how people think, how people thought, I believe, and we can't judge them on that, because, well, there was a real danger for them. There was a real threat. If they feared something, there was a reason for that. So, and for us, we can still take some lessons, learn some lessons from here. So today, at least in Russia, maybe in some countries there is a danger, but still in Russia, try to live it like a good life, try to be a good man, a good human being, and then be good to other people, try to forgive them and all of that, and that's it. And then don't think too much about how they perceive you, because you'll never satisfy them. You'll never know completely and exactly how they feel when they think about you. And somebody would speak behind your back anyway. Somebody will complain about you. So you can avoid those things 100%. So there is no reason to think about it. There is no point thinking about it. All right, just put it out of your head and forget about it. Okay, I think this is the first part. It's 30 minutes so far. And yeah, I think we'll continue from here in the second part. So now we're going to keep on about this. He didn't say a word of sense. There wasn't time to talk properly, I think. We stop here. Okay, thanks for watching, and I see you in the next video. Stay tuned.